Hey guys, welcome to the lab. Episode 7 of Leon in the Lab starts right now. Special thanks to anyone who's watching this. The support and outreach for the show has been amazing. And episode 7 is a really fun episode for me. I was joined by Rohit Malhotra. He is a fellow podcaster. You can find him on the Sneaker History podcast. He also has an F1 podcast that he co-hosts called Exhaust Notes. It's covers everything to do with F1 racing and stuff like that. But he joined me in the lab to create some really cool hats. All of them are based and have roots to his family, so that was really cool. He came on and he made stuff to kind of honor different members of the family, so that was really an interesting take and an interesting way to design hats. So for that, I hope you guys take the time to watch that. And a special shout out to sponsor the show, Pro Image Sports Colorado. They've been really cool to me. We have a lot of different things in the works right now in terms of different hats and different designs. And previous show hats are in production right now, so that's really cool. And hope you guys enjoy the show, and make sure you guys are really active in the comments and letting me know what you think. And hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to the lab. We have Rohit joining me today. How you doing today, Rohit?
I'm doing great, Leon. How's it going over there in Toronto, I believe?
Toronto. Not too bad. We're surviving. But thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to join me in the lab. So we will be creating a couple of hopefully some pieces of art for people to see. For those who don't know, Rohit is a professional in the fashion industry out of Beaverton, and you're part of two really cool podcasts that I've been kind of following for a while now. So Sneaker History, mostly focused on sneakers. It's obvious in the title. And then Exhaust Notes. Tell everyone how you got involved in those and what those are about.
Sure. So I like to joke that I'm a part of the Nick Engvall cinematic universe because he's, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, the tie that binds all my podcast experience together. And how I joined that conglomerate, if you want to call it that, was I live in Beaverton, like you mentioned. So one of the other co-hosts, Robbie Falchi, he's also in the greater Beaverton area. And we kind of ran in the same circles. So one day out of the blue, he hit me up on Instagram with a DM so I could finally cross that off the bucket list and be like, somebody made a scandalous offer for me in my DMs. And he just said, hey, man, I know enough of the people that you hang out with, and they tell me you know a lot about sports, and we're looking to venture out a little from our podcasting perspective. Would you want to join? And I had a college radio background, and it was something I didn't realize I missed until I started scratching that itch again and joining the episodes. And then lastly, it was selfishly also done to kind of help with my day job because I realized I was kind of in this rut and my communication skills weren't what they needed to be. So I was just looking at it from that Malcolm Gladwell perspective of, you know what, let me get 10,000 hours in of decent broadcasting and decent speaking because it can only make things better for me personally and professionally. So that in a nutshell is that. And to your point, sneaker history for me is we try to be like the old dudes in the club that are like, hey, man, I like your sneakers, not trying to capitalize on hype beasts or anything like that. Just like your sneakers. And then from an Exhaust Notes perspective, I think I fell in love with Formula One the same way a lot of us in America did, which was around the Netflix show Drive to Survive. And luckily for me, Nick and my other co-host Todd Yates have been fans for decades plus, so they can nerd out on the tech side of things. They know their Johnson rods from their engine shafts, and me, I just say, oh, I like personalities. Oh, they go really fast. So it's that perfect blend of numbers and words. I bring the words, those two guys bring in the numbers. So yeah.
Nice. I'm not caught up with my current F1 standings. I haven't really watched since Michael Schumacher used to battle Jacques Villeneuve for the championship. So it hasn't been much watch TV for me for probably about 3 decades.
Look at it this way, though, Leon. You're now a part of my secret OG council when it comes to
There
Formula
you go.
One, because now that's one more brain I can kind of pick and get information out of. And I think to tie it back together, because, I am a shill for our podcast, that's Sneaker History and Exhaust Notes. I think Michael Schumacher had his own Nike for a very short time. And Nick, I know, always does what feels like an annual passage on, this is that episode, this is that shoe, this is the model, this is the
Yeah,
traces of the storytelling, which is what you're going to do, because I'm so excited to be a part of this. Like
that's awesome.
when a friend of ours told us about this podcast, I'm not much of a hat guy, as you will probably surmise in my involvement with this episode. But one thing I do respect and really appreciate, and Leon, you have this in spades, is just that eye for detail and creativity. So look forward to being on the journey with you.
Yeah, I think what's cool about the world's kind of converging, and I'm talking about sneakerheads and fitted lovers, is the similarities with the storytelling. So I think, I mean, you could probably talk about this a lot, but just some of the underground storytelling that Nike did with like the SB Dunk, and kind of just putting it out and letting the people kind of tell the story and talk like, hey, that kind of looks like Heineken bottle, or you know, those represent Montreal bagels, or whatever the case may be. But I think a lot of the success that the hat community, or the hat culture can kind of point to, it is from that storytelling. So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those things where we share so much of that similar DNA. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Nick's third podcast, which is also about hats, which is Crown and Stitch, coming to a
mhm.
podcasting app near you.
Yep.
And yeah, there is so much overlap. And I think that's what truly makes genius of Nick Engvall shine through in the episodes, because it doesn't matter if he's talking about cars, shoes, or hats. Like, the passion is there, much the same way your passion is going to be readily available as we go through this episode.
Yeah, definitely. So what kind of got you started with sneaker collecting?
Sure. So it was one of those things in previous tour of duty at a big sportswear giant in Beaverton. I think most people can kind of figure it out. We had a benefit of getting certain styles at 50% off. So that kind of scratched the initial itch. But then
Yeah.
I had a mentor who, as a favor to me, because I did a favor to him and I didn't think much of it at the time, he gifted me a pair of What the Kobe Sevens. And they were on my desk one day. And it was really funny because I remember this memory so vividly. I was not necessarily having the best time at work. I was the youngest guy on my team. Everybody on my team was significantly older. They didn't get the fact that Nike was a youthful, vibrant company and that we need to lean in on that vibrancy. So I just come into work one day. I had a pretty rough previous day of work because my boss and I got into it. And it's just like, I don't know if I want to work here. And then as I turned the corner to get to my cube, I just see a group of people, I'd say about 5 or 6, and they're all just kind of huddled over my cube. And I'm like, what is going on? And on it was just this shoebox. And it was one of those things like you always see in those bad horror movies where people want to lift the shoebox, but because it's
Yeah.
not there. And I was like, please do it so I can scare the crap out of you guys. So somebody actually tried to lift it. I was like, hey, what's going on? So they just kind of scattered like roaches whenever you turn the light on. So then I opened the box and it was What the Kobe Sevens. And at the time, I didn't even realize how awesome of a shoe it was. I had just mentioned to my mentor, hey, I like mismatched shoes. So if you can let me know when the next mismatched shoe is going to come out, I will buy it. You don't need to do that, because I'm always very particular about, I do not want favors from my friends, because I've seen people go down that slippery path. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, but he did me a solid. And that was finally what kind of conceptualized my love of sneakers. Prior to that, and I think you and I chatted about this previously in the pregame meeting, if you will, was I was a big Slam magazine fan. It's like, it didn't matter what it said. If it said Slam magazine, I was going to buy it. And at the time, I had this allowance of $20 a month. And every month, because I was a dummy when I was in high school and elementary school, I never thought to like save a couple of months worth and get like a full on subscription. So I would always pay my $3.99 or $4.99 for Slam magazine. And then one time we were traveling, and it was the first time we were going to go to LA to visit a family member. And our rule in the family was, if you're traveling, and we were all voracious readers, you can buy one book and or magazine at the airport as kind of like a souvenir that wasn't a t-shirt. So I just saw Slam Magazine Presents Kicks, and I was like, oh, more basketball? I'm in. And then when I flipped the magazine, lo and behold, it was only sneakers. But I was like, you know what? This is still cool. This still kind of applies to me because I'm a big fan of the culture. And at that moment, that aha moment appeared in my eyes of like, sneakers and basketball are forever intertwined. And now, selfishly, I have friends at that same big giant that we had mentioned that are designers, and it's something so soul warming to see your
Yeah.
buddies in that magazine that you grew up reading. So that's why I'm a sneakerhead now through and through, just because of environment, friendships, and a little bit of everything else.
Nice, nice. I love that story. That's so cool. All right, so we're gonna get started into building some stuff. So um, our first thing that we're gonna dedicate is something to your family, right? So that's gonna be an overarching theme to the hats we built today. Can you tell me a little bit about the first hat we're doing?
Sure. To your point, Leon, my theme is my family. The first one is for my mom. And
Hmm.
she's just truly what every mom should hopefully be to their son or daughter. She was my light. She gives me motivation. She gives me just a confidence that sometimes, whenever the world beats that out of you, your mom is always going to be there with a kind word and a warm hug. So I wanted to make sure that as I commemorate what makes me me, it's really my folks and my daughter. But we'll get to those stories later. But we'll start off with my mom. And the thing with my mom, and it goes back to our love of sneakers, is when I was in high school, she got me a pair called the Nike Airjet Flight. And if you listen to any of the other podcasts that I'm affiliated with, it's my favorite shoe. I hope it retros at some point in the next 5 to 10 years, because I will buy almost all of the colorways, no matter how tacky, no matter how flashy they may be. But for me, the iconic pair was a simple red and wolf gray. And that's going to be the overarching color of this hat. And for me, having that conversation with my mom, specifically around those sneakers, was her kind of surprising me with it, because we were first generation immigrants. So we kind of had to keep our money close. But whenever we did really well in life, whether it be in grades or athletics, my mom would always gift us Nike sneakers, whether it be for me or my brother. And this is the first pair that really just kind of resonated with me. And it was in that red and wolf gray colorway. And I love that sneaker so much. I would wear it every day, even though they were meant to be my basketball sneakers. And sorry, listeners, this may get a little graphic. I just wore those so frequently, and I would wear them sometimes without socks, that there would just be a special odor emitting from them. And my mom would go into my room. First, she would hide the sneakers. So then in the morning, because I was a late riser, I was like, oh crap, I don't know where my sneakers are. I guess I have to take some other pair. So I would take another pair. She would then throw my sneakers away. But this is the greatness of my brilliance, if you will. My shoes are so stinky that I could differentiate that smell in the trash can. So then I would go dumpster dive in my own house, bring those sneakers back, like let them air out, and then hide them again. And then it became a cat and mouse game. So for us, that's something that's forever intertwined between the two of us, which was this Airjet Flight shoe. So taking inspiration from that. And then the other thing was, I come from a family of sports fans, as we'll kind of touch on the other stories as well. Sports plays a big part of who we as the Malhotras are. And what's unique about my mom specifically is I always look at sports through the lens of a North America perspective, which is it's overwhelmingly a dad watching activity. Like, all that you learn about sports is from your dad. You cuddle up next to him, you watch your sports, he teaches you who's good, who's bad, what are your allegiances, what do you not want to look for. And it's one of those things growing up in Missouri, especially now, we have this guy. I don't know if you have heard of him, Patrick Mahomes, and he has done such a great job in terms of not only finally allowing us to believe in the Chiefs and getting us multiple Super Bowls, but attracting new fans. And the biggest Chiefs fan in my family is my mom. And what's special about that to me is, growing up, my mom had this reputation of being a bit of a bad luck charm. And one of the famous family stories we had was in 1983, when I think India won the Cricket World Cup for the very first time. All of my mom's family were watching it, but she had gotten kicked outside because they did not want her to watch the game with them, because they were worried that she was going to jinx them. So she always kind of had this weird attitude and relationship with sports. But then luckily for me, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid came into our lives, and she became a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. And I was so happy that she could finally glom onto a team and say, this is my team. This is what brings me joy. So every Sunday now we have a ritual where she calls me up. She's like, what do you think they're going to do? And it's that conversation we have with our dads normally that now I get to have with my mom, and I get to show her how much sports means to me by sharing it with her. So that's why I think for my inspiration, I'm going to use the Kansas City Chiefs, which you've already brought up there.
Nice. I love it. So I think first things first is like, let's put this Chiefs thing away. I'm gonna make this bigger so you can see.
Sure.
I think with sneakerheads is we got to make sure we capture the right red. So
Yes.
that's gonna be very key. So I'm gonna zoom in for you a little bit here. So these are the kind of colors we're playing with. So Houston, which is like a brick red, um, another brick red, which is closer to like a maroon burgundy,
Mm-hmm.
Pinot, Scarlet, front door, which is like a Bulls red, and then Red City. So we're gonna hold it up to, hold on, and get rid of this. So we're gonna hold it up to the shoe and see which one is the closest. I went too far.
No, and I will say this: you have that thankless job of navigating and driving. So, Leon, thank you for doing that because I know
Yeah,
how
no
tough
problem.
that can be.
No problem. So we'll if it gets too in the weeds, we'll fast forward it with overlay with some music to kind of let our viewers enjoy. But for now, we're kind of holding up the different reds. So do you see a specific? It might be front door.
I was thinking front door as well. And I
Yeah.
mean, the image that you're using, it kind of implies that there are multiple reds. But yeah, let's go with front door red. I think that is truly the essence of that wolf gray and red colorway to me, if we're just
All
looking
right.
at it from the back half of it.
So let's keep the front door. The rest of these reds can go. And then now let's pull the gray. So there's two sets of gray. So is there? There's just one gray in the shoe, right?
Yeah, just that one wolf
All
gray.
right.
And I'm trying to think, dare I say dolphin gray? But what are you thinking, Leon? Because I know this is your realm, and I want to make sure that I pay
Mm-hmm.
respect to the Albus Dumbledore, to my Harry Potter when it comes to this sort of thing.
I think we're close to dolphin, but
Mm-hmm.
then there is a little bit of gray in the bubble that we're gonna probably pull, and that might be misty morning or storm gray.
You know what? Let's go Misty Morning because I think one other thing about my mom is she instilled a love of reading, as we mentioned, kind of in that Kicks colorway. And my goodness, Misty is a beautiful adjective, so why not reward that as well?
There you go. And then dolphin. You said dolphin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. So now that we have our colors, let's put those to the side. And then you had mentioned commemorating a couple off air. You had mentioned commemorating a couple Super Bowls. So 2020 is this one. I still don't know how L is a Roman numeral, but that's a story for another
No,
day.
that's okay. If I remember, and I'm sure our listeners will tell us, but I believe that's 54.
Okay. No, that I know.
Oh,
I just don't know how it all works together with the like.
apologies. I just row
Yeah,
explained, so that's on me. Leon,
yeah.
you're
No,
a
you're good.
smart boy, and I'm a dumb one.
You're good. You're good. It's just like, I don't know. It's like a weird thing for that to count as 50, but it is what it is. So, all right. So we got our stuff here. So we're gonna commemorate two Super Bowls. One for you and one for your brother. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that I know the Chiefs' recent rise to fame has kind of led a lot of non-Kingdom or non-Chiefs fans to kind of think, okay, this is bandwagon. But no, it's not. I mean, for my mom, she had always kind of kept an eye on football because it was such a unique sport to her coming from India where cricket rules everything that you take literally the polar opposite in every aspect of it and put it out on the field, so to speak. Whereas cricket is very slow and methodical, football can be that, but my goodness, when Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce connect on their improvisational best, it feels like we are just watching two people control time, space, physics in a way that usually is reserved for the likes of Doctor Strange. So I think having those two Super Bowls tie up with the fact that she has two sons is a perfect symmetry there. And my brother's infinitely more stylish, so I don't mind him getting the backdrop of, I think, Arizona, which was what that 57 was. But at the
Mhm.
same time, just having, once again, that symmetry around the fact that if my mom sees this, she knows that, yeah, it's a cute hat or it's a beautiful hat, but then the detail is always there that she can really kind of nerd out on.
Cool. All right. So I'm gonna pull up a bigger version of it. So what would you rather color first? The color of the hat or the color of all the logos?
What is easiest? Because I would think it's the hat, but
I think the hat, if you kind of get a conceptualization on what it looks like, then it's easier to color the logos for it.
let's do
But
that then.
okay.
No, I'm learning from you. So I am clay. You are the hands that mold me. So please mold me.
All right, cool. So in terms of hat, have you thought about if you want to make it a mono hat, so like one color for the crown and visor, or if you want to do what it's called a two-tone. There's another thing where there's some people like white panel fronts, so the two front panels are a different color. Have you thought that deeply about
I
it?
have not, but in this
Okay.
moment, if we're looking at the Airjet flight, that seems two-tone, if I understood
hmm
the terminology correctly. So
hmm
let's do that if that's possible.
All right. So the two-tone version would look something like this, probably. So the visor is that gray,
Mm-hmm.
and then the crown would be the front door red. The other option would be um, we do something like this. It almost would be too much gray.
I think so. I was going to say
Yeah,
it almost blends. So it may look similar to the shoe, but I trust you, Leon. And I think there was
yeah,
more comfort with the first option you showed me, which was the red all over. So let's go with that.
yeah. And then the other option would be just to make it a red hat, but then we'll have primarily gray logos,
Mm-hmm.
and then have a gray under visor. So that would be the other option.
I think let's keep the bill gray like you previously had.
Okay, cool. So let's do that. And then let's start coloring. So the Kingdom logo, oops, the Kingdom logo can go here. So we can swap out the yellow for one of the lighter or the darker grays, or use white. There's no white in the shoe, right?
I think the swoosh was white.
Okay, so that'd be the fourth color we can kind of play with. So,
Okay.
um, so right here we can take the lighter of the grays, put it there. Hold on, let me put my tolerance up. We can do something like that. We could do the fill gray, and then have the yellow letters turn to white. Yeah, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, let's try that. Can we fill in the gray and then turn the font and the outline to white and just see how that
Yeah,
looks?
yeah, that's easy.
So, Leon, if you don't mind me interviewing you as you do this, because I just
hmm
figure you're very
No
good at
problem.
multitasking, what led you to kind of do this, or what was the moment for you where, like, you know what, let me make this a podcast? Because this is one of those things that I had no kind of exposure to. But now that I think about it, this is a brilliant podcast because it kind of combines that eye to detail that we were chatting about in terms of hat culture and sneaker culture, but you make it in a very easy to digest, palatable form. Was that something that you always envisioned, or you kind of fell into that?
Not really specifically. So basically, I kind of make hats all the time, and this is something that really is something that I do off camera a lot. And I did a couple of how-to videos, and people really like them. So yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of evolved, and it's a way for me to express or show people what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of went from there. So it was originally started as like a little bit of a flex, like a hey, look at me type thing. But then it's also a way to show off um, my skills. So us at we started a podcast called Views from the Vault, and that was mainly a podcast to review hats and talk to different designers and do different stuff like that. But this is kind of a way for me to step away from that and kind of flex the creative muscles, so to speak. So
Well, sir, you look like a young Arnold Schwarzenegger in Austria, the way you're
no, no,
flexing.
no,
So,
no, 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 no. All right, so this is white with gray. I used the darker
okay.
gray,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then this is what it would look like with the lighter gray. So that versus that,
I kind of like the darker gray a little
I
bit
kind of do
more.
too. There's more
Even
more
yeah,
contrast.
yep. And I think that's the other thing as well as I've kind of dived a little bit deeper into hat culture. What appeals to me as a novice is those contrast in color. So I think let's go with the darker gray.
All right, so it look like that. And then we said that your brother's getting this one,
Yes, he'll
57.
get
All right,
them. Yeah,
cool.
let's go chronologically. They won their Super Bowl, so yeah.
All right. So what are we doing color wise for him? Do we have any favorite colors we want to work with?
Now I'm trying to think. He's one of those guys that anytime I talk to him about any sort of sport, he's got a new favorite person and a new favorite team. So
Mhm.
that's where I was just like, does it make more sense to kind of keep this one traditional? Because I kind of think that there's a nice contrast in the colorway. But well, I guess what are the options if I told you his favorite color was, let's say, purple?
Purple, yeah, we could pick the purple and pick the purple that you want to use. Um, you have the option to keep it kind of as it's colored, so it looks
Mhm.
more standard. It's totally up to you. So it's
Okay.
whatever. This canvas is yours to paint uh,
Okay. Well,
together
how
with
about
me.
this? Okay, so let's do this then. She is a big fan of barbecue, and that was something that Kansas City is known for. So if
Mhm.
there's like a barbecue sauce, maroon or brown, let's see how that may look because that's
Yeah.
something that my brother shares with her as well as they love a good pulled pork sandwich.
So barbecue brown. You got it. You got it. Let me find it for you.
So
Got it.
Leon, I may not have asked you this in the pregame, but do you have any siblings as well, or?
Two younger brothers.
Oh, nice, so a
Two
fellow
younger
older
brothers.
brother there. I like it.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. So we got brown suede, mahogany, moss, brown, walnut, toasted peanut, and chocolat.
Chocolat. Wow. I think the brown seems to be the most traditional base out of those that reminds me of barbecue.
All right. And yeah, so we'll just get the painting. So, is there any specific color you want the brown to replace? Yeah,
Let's how about the outline of the LVII? Let's just see how that looks.
the outline. Oops. There's like a million colors in this thing.
Oh no, I
This is
should
gonna
have picked
be this
a
is gonna be
simpler one.
fun. No, no, that's fine. So what happens is here this is like the 3D rendering of
Okay.
it. So like the actual stitch out and the embroidery is going to be much more simplified. So you see
Okay.
how there's like crazy gradients and stuff?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would
yeah.
probably be like one color, to be
Okay.
honest.
That's fair. I
All
mean,
right.
I don't think this looks that bad in terms of just the outline of the LVII for the brown.
Yeah. So let me try to punch it in here for you. All right, let's do this simple version. Hold on. Let's do the
Okay.
for dummies version. Let's do this just to show you.
Sure.
Uh, we'll do the stroke version. So we'll pretend that's like kind of the outline.
Oh, perfect. I like it.
All right. And then what about like the fill?
Hmm.
What
So the
other
other
colors are
thing
gonna pull?
I was gonna say, she is got a bit of a green thumb, and that's kind of
Hmm.
what I liked about this was just it has a bit of that vibrancy in terms of the colors, but maybe a nice what goes well with brown. I think that's the other issue is like brown is not necessarily a very friendly complementary color. So I'll defer to you.
As long as it's earthy,
Hmm.
right? Some of the
Let's go with
greens.
Yeah, let's go with the
Well,
dark forest green. So then that can kind of
yeah.
signify the roots that she's instilled in us and the roots she's put down in a foreign country because she was born in India. And like it, I think I want to make sure that as a kid of an immigrant and as a first generation immigrant, I always want to make sure that that gets the proper homage and respect because they've done a lot, especially in terms of moving away from a comfort zone to a brand new place, all in the efforts of making their kids' life simpler.
All right. So we got field green, DH green, cilantro. We're probably around
Hmm.
DH
Let's
or
try that.
field. Yeah,
Let's try DH.
perfect. So now we go back to here, and we're gonna start replacing some of the teals with that. So it look like that.
Okay. No, that's not bad.
That doesn't look bad. And then for like this red and purple,
Mhm.
we could do like a lighter color, like a cream kind of color, off whitish
Let's do
stone.
it. Let's do a cream because
All
I
right.
think purple is a good flower color, and maybe it
Mhm.
works well with that dark green.
All right. Let me find it. All right. So we got taupe, seashell.
Mm. How would seashell look?
I think it'll look beautiful.
And the reason why is my mom actually has just moved to Portland and she's finally retired. So I mean, I think that's something you as a kid want to hear is like your mom can finally relax.
Mm-hmm.
And her only recommendation, or not even recommendation, sorry, I misspoke. Her only request to my dad was, I just need to be around some small to large body of water. So we can give that to her by the sea and the seashell. So let's go with that.
There you go. There's something really humbling being next to big bodies of water, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that the truth? Like, you kind of are okay when you realize, hey, I'm a speck of dust in this grand, big old universe of ours, but as long as the water's near me, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we got that in there. It looks like we can still fill the shadow with the color, and then the silver. So, what are you thinking here?
I say let's keep the silver because then, I mean, that
Yeah.
Lombardi trophy remains its identity. But what would you suggest, a lighter color or a darker color for the shadow? Because I think now we've alternated. I feel like we have one light and two pretty dark colors. Would it make sense to go light again?
Yeah, we can. Like we can
Okay.
go like a khaki or kind of like a look at different type of gray, almost like a copper, metallic copper.
Let's try a metallic copper, see what we
All
can
right.
come up with. I like that. It's not bad. So if I can get the obnoxious question out of the way, how many hats do you think you've designed like this, Leon?
Ooh.
Over under 5,000.
Oh, under
Okay. I
under
wasn't
five.
sure the level of the passion, so I figured let me
Yeah,
skew high, and I didn't want to insult you.
yeah, under. But it's units created over 10,000 probably easily
Oh, that's awesome.
of hats that I've designed that are out there. Yeah, it's got to be in the 10,000s. That copper is like all the rage right now in the hat world. All right,
Oh,
so we got
that's good.
copper, silvers, some greens, some eggshells. I think that looks pretty good.
Yep.
Let's move on to yours. So you get Super Bowl LIV, so 54, 2020, right?
Yes, sir.
This was his sophomore year
This
or
this was
junior
his
year?
sophomore year. So I mean,
Okay.
like most of us, we have a sophomore slump. Mahomes did not. He got us a sophomore Super Bowl, so we'll gladly take it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, what was most exhilarating about that run was every game I felt like we were down by double digits. And
Yeah.
football is one of those games where if you see your team bleeding or getting punched in the gut, it's so excruciating to watch because sometimes that game can get really bogged down, unlike basketball or hockey, which is so frenetic and so action packed. But it is one of those things where, like, when you have a guy like 15, and I don't want to jinx this because I want him to have a happy, healthy career despite his profession, you honestly feel like you've got some sort of approximation of Jordan where no lead is too insurmountable and
Mm-hmm.
everything feels within the realm of possibility. And it's just I know we kind of use the analogy of Doctor Strange as I kind of go into this now. It almost feels like he's a little bit more like Neo in the Matrix, where it's just by the time Neo perfected his skill, he didn't even have to dodge the bullets like Morpheus said in the first one. So that's kind of what we're getting with Mahomes right now.
Yeah, like I still remember that Monday night battle, him and Goff, where they went off for
Oh,
like a billion points.
in Mexico City, because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I remember like it got rescheduled for something, and that was actually the first time. So my wife is a proud Florida Gator, so all of her football has been through that lens of SEC football, which is all passion, truly means more. But as she was watching that game for me, she goes, "This is the first time I've sat and watched professional football." And she goes, "Are all games like this?" I said, "No, this is
No,
truly the
that's a once
pamphlet."
in a lifetime.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is a once in a lifetime game, and it's just one of those things that even though we lost, I was just like, that's what I'm going to tell the grandkids about. And I think that's ultimately what we want as sports fans. We want to be able to share our passions. And you have these moments where it's like you can look at individual plays or you can look at the whole concept of a game performance. And he truly shines in both facets.
yeah, that was one of those ones, and then you almost didn't want it to end.
No.
It was so crazy.
Yeah.
But all right, so what are we doing on this one?
What are we doing on this one? So I would think I'm a reader like my mom. And for whatever reason, purple just speaks to me. Maybe like we
Okay.
kind of bonded over the Harry Potter books, and I feel like purple is one of those motifs in the in the cover that we saw a lot. So let's go ahead and see if we can get some sort of purple and where maybe that yellowish gold outline is.
Mm-hmm. So there's many
Oh yeah.
purples.
Let's go with
So
a
I'm gonna give you some options. So these are the
perfect.
lighter
Mhm.
purples,
Oh,
and
these are
then
lighter. Okay.
I'll give you the darker purples, starting from New Orchid, Concord, Magenta, those kind of things.
Okay.
So if you see any purple you like, let me know.
Hmm. Let's go with purple maze. I wanted to make sure that was maze and not haze because
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Jimi Hendrix.
All right. So we're gonna get the yellows to purple haze or purple maze.
Maze. See,
Yeah.
now I've got you doing it.
So what happens with the hats is usually one color will be tied together as a thread stop. So
Okay.
you wouldn't be able to be like, oh, one side of the shadow, one color, and like, no,
No,
they all have to go together.
out of fairness to you, I did not want to get too exuberant with it because I was like, at the end of the day, we've got to make sure we keep people captivated and
Mm-hmm.
not cause you to just break your keyboard in half or your
Nah,
mouse in.
we're good. We're good. All
Alrighty.
right. Anything
Uh,
else? Do you like this teal here still?
I do
Mm-hmm.
because I think it. Hmm. What do you? What would you recommend? Because I'm one of those people that I can't really think that much in terms of style unless
Yeah.
like I have it kind of thought out. What would you contrast that purple with, if anything? Or do you even like it the way that it is, where we don't even need the purple? What would you prefer?
So, like, there's like a lot of different color theories,
Mhm.
contrasting and complementary colors. So, I guess if you're looking at the color wheel, gold works well with purple. You see it a
Okay.
lot used in teams. But also keeping it close to what it is with that purple accent is really cool too. So it's really kind of how you perceive it and how you personally want to make it, basically.
You know what? This is a detail I was going to use in the next hat, but let's go ahead and put it there. So, growing up, we had the golden rule as kind of our family mantra of treating others the
Okay.
way we want to be treated. And since you are a master of color theory and it makes sense, let's see if we can make a nice gold to that teal as a
All right.
substitute.
All right. Cool. So we're gonna punch in some. So you can go metallic gold or you can go flat gold. So that's like the metallics,
Okay.
and then the flat gold. We're looking at like these, kind of similar to like what the Vikings, athletics.
Like a Laker gold in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. Like they call it gold, but it's essentially yellow.
Mm.
So you can go either.
Let's try the Laker or the athletic gold.
All right.
I want to see how that looks, if that's the right amount of contrast.
So it'll look like that.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Don't
it's not
mind that.
bad. You'll notice like a lot of teams build their color palettes off of the color wheel.
Mm.
So blue, orange, purple, gold, stuff like that.
Right. Perfect. I like
All
that.
right. So do you want to live on the back or do you want to live on the side? Is the question.
Let's go on the sides.
All right. So one will go here and the other one will go to the back.
I think that's the perfect way to look at it.
All right. So it goes here. And then I'm going to get the 4 view rocking.
So are your brothers also big hat guys,
No.
or what is their collection of choice if they have one?
So in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
Wesley. So he's the one that's closer to me in age. We're 4 years apart.
Oh, just like my brother and I. Nice.
Yeah. So he essentially looks like my twin. When we go in
Oh,
public, people think we're twins. People stop us like, "Hey, are you guys twins?" We're not twins. We look very similar, body shape and everything. He collects sneakers.
okay.
And I guess fortunately, unfortunately, we are the same size.
Oh,
But
that's
both
perfect for you.
hats, Yeah, hats and
Yeah.
sneakers. We don't really share stuff that much anymore. When we were younger, we easily could have
Right.
um, done that. But yeah. So he I guess he's more into sneaker collecting. He doesn't really like hats. He keeps his
Mhm.
hair really long. Like he does have a bunch, but like nothing compared to what I have
Okay.
in terms of hat collecting.
Mhm.
And then why are you doing that? And then yeah, my youngest brother Henry, he looks nothing like either Wesley and I. Doesn't really collect anything. He does not have the collector bug at all. So he does have shoes. He definitely, I don't even think I've ever seen him wear a hat. Um, but yeah, but he doesn't really collect anything.
Here's the thing, Henry, if you're listening, if you're watching, please, for your brother's sake, wear one of his creations. It would make him feel top of
I
the
don't
game.
even, I don't even know what his hat size is. Like to be honest, he doesn't
Okay.
own any hats.
That is no, it's interesting to me because my brother didn't necessarily become a sneakerhead until I got him a couple of Jordans, and it was one of those things that he always wanted to be a doctor. And
Okay.
hopefully, I'm not telling stories out of turn, but it was one of those things that he took the MCAT a couple times, didn't get the score he wanted, and I just remember bribing him like, "Hey, you know what? This Jordan 11's coming out this holiday season. You get that score, I won't buy a pair for me. I'll buy a pair for you." And I think
Nice.
he got close to it. You know what? For this purpose of this story, he got the score. So I was
There
more
you
than
go.
happy to kind of give him those shoes. And it was one of those things that you see your brother kind of puff his chest out and walk with a bit of confidence. And I was like, yes, you know what? That's why I do this, just to make sure he feels good about himself. Because I think I'm sure you feel the same way about both Wesley and Henry. Like you're their bodyguard, you're their security blanket. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. And please, Henry, wear the hats. Was it Henry?
Yeah,
Apologies if I've
Henry.
already butchered it.
It's Henry and Wesley.
Wesley.
Most people in my family, for whatever reason, they all have and what like most of like my cousins and everyone, they all have names that end with Y. I
Ah,
think only a couple cousins that don't. So I'm one, and Karina. There's a dragon, but yeah, everyone else ends with a Y for what I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just ease of speech. Maybe that's just kind of how it worked out.
no, and I get a semblance of that because I know that my folks were so worried that when we moved to the States that people are going to butcher our names, and their whole thought process was my name is fairly simple, Rohit,
Hmm.
and my brother's name is Ude. And it was one of those things where I always tell my American friends this is like, you know what? As long as you attempt it, I will never get mad, no matter how
Yeah,
bad the pronunciation is.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
you don't attempt it, I'm going to be like, come on, man. Like, make the effort and I'll make the effort for you. And then funny story was the only exception I'll make was in high school. I had a gym teacher who was our kind of football coach for the whole high school. And as is the case growing up in the Midwest, the football coach, if very good, can kind of control the whole flow of the school. For whatever reason, he took to me like duck to water, and he's like, "You know what? I like you." So I'm like, "Okay, this guy likes me. He's seen me around." So the first day he has me in class. He like looks at my name. He goes, "Yeah, I can't pronounce this." And I was like, "Oh no." He goes,
It's not that hard.
"It's not that hard." But
Yeah,
I had gold shoes on. And he goes, "You know what? You remind me of that robot from Star Wars. I'm gonna call you Robot Malfunction." So that nickname followed me all throughout high school. And I was like, "You know what? It's funny. I enjoy it." And it was one of those things. Anytime I did something noteworthy in class, to be like, "Hey, you know what, Robot? Good job. I like it a lot." So I was like, "You know what? I can live with Robot." So he's one of the few people that can call me a bastardized version of my name, but that's what life is. You just got to roll with the flow.
I like it. All right. So now I'm gonna test your memory.
Okay.
Usually a hat like this, most people would go a green bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which green is closest to the grass color to your Kansas City Chiefs?
I would think it's the emerald green because that seems to be the darkest.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe because I'm petty and there's a lot of Eagle fans in my Twitter life that like to invalidate that trophy. I would like to put the Kelly green there just to let them know, hey, you
All
guys
right.
came really close to winning the Super Bowl, but you didn't actually do it.
I like it. Kelly green. You can never go wrong with a Kelly green.
Okay,
Kelly green
perfect.
is actually my favorite undervisor.
Oh, awesome. Then
Yeah.
I'm in good company then. I'll take
Yeah.
that all day.
Yeah. There you go. It just invokes classic feelings. That's what
Yeah.
The on-field used to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna wear this hat a lot, I would suggest you to go black sweatband. White
Let's do that.
sweatband looks better, but if we're talking practicality, black is the way to go.
Black is the way to go.
All right.
Leon, can I ask you a question? Would it be possible to move the what is it, 57 logo to the other side, or stack them on top, or no?
You can't.
Okay.
You can't. So
Walk me through that.
New
Mhm.
Era has very specific branding, so that's where this
Ah,
lives. So if
okay.
you can put one above it, but it will be a much smaller logo
Ah,
as
okay. Thank you
opposed
for
to
that.
getting the whole panel.
Then let's keep it as is. I
Yeah.
like it.
If we're doing two logos, that's the most even way we can stack it. You can go like that, but then it's a whole other
No,
mess.
you know what? I also like it because unintentionally you've kind of created the spoke in the Indian wheel with the black
Mhm.
sweatband. So I like it. Great work.
There you go. All right. So number one, done.
One
Let's
down,
save.
two to go.
Yeah, let's save this. Mama Love is scratched
Mama.
off the
Yeah,
list.
check.
Save these and start the other one. All right. So number two, what's a
So this
mother
one,
without a father, right?
yeah, exactly. And I know dad hat is kind of a loaded term in the hat industry, but I didn't know what else to think of it with regards to how to classify it. But this is my dad hat. And for my dad, growing up, he was a more traditional sports fan. He was a pretty accomplished athlete back in the day. And it was one of those things where his brother, my uncle, made it to the Indian cricket national team level. And my dad was a fairly good field hockey player because that was the other big sport in India at the time. But my dad kind of had to take a back seat because he told my brother, hey, you're at the pinnacle of your sport. I'm not going to get to the pinnacle of my sport, so I'll kind of take care of our folks. So I just wanted to kind of pay respect to that by saying, you know what, he gets his own hat the same way my uncle has gotten a bunch of cricket merchandise over the years. And one of the other things my dad kind of always instilled in us was having this attitude of being the excellence of execution. And that's a very familiar phrase to a certain group of people, and specifically wrestling fans, because growing up, how I learned English was through watching The Simpsons and professional wrestling. Dad did not like The Simpsons, thought it was a little too goofy, but for whatever reason, professional wrestling made sense to him. And our favorite wrestler was a fellow Canadian by the name of Bret the Hitman Hart. And he's got so many catchphrases. And I thought to pair that with arguably my dad's favorite team to watch, which was the San Antonio Spurs of the last decade, especially when they were passing the ball as beautifully as they were. It just made the most sense because if there is one thing that Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker embody, it's that excellence of execution. Probably one of my favorite commercials ever is the Mob Deep song, Shook Ones Part 2, set to the backdrop of the Spurs executing a play because that's everything you need to know about them. And that's kind of where I got the inspiration for this next hat.
All right, perfect. So it's good because the Spurs are in the news again for rigging the lottery and getting
Wemby.
Wemby. So it's exciting times. I mean, they're back. So let's do something for that.
Perfect. And if you don't mind me asking, Leon, are you a Raptors guy then?
Hell yes.
And I will say this. So the most famous alumni that we've had from an athletic perspective in my high school, Jefferson City High School, was one OG Anunoby. So
Oh, okay.
So we have a rooting interest, that and the large Punjabi population in Toronto. We always have a sweet spot for the Raptors here in Team Malhotra household.
Nice, nice.
How are you feeling
OG.
though? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I would say like OG is kind of like he reminds me a lot of Kawhi in the mannerisms and kind of like the seriousness and like if you understand his humor, he's like the funniest guy, but you
It's so
won't get
dry.
anything out of it. Yeah, you won't get anything out of it.
Now, I was going to
So
ask you because for me, that Toronto run felt
mhm,
one of the most magical because you had the backdrop of taking down this juggernaut, which was that KD
mhm.
Curry Warriors led basketball behemoth, which was probably the closest thing we've seen to a Shaq and Kobe team in terms of just overall dominance. But there was something about that Raptors team where you had Kawhi, but then you also had these young guys coming of age, Fred VanVleet, OG, Pascal Siakam. And it's one of those things that I'm sure for you guys, especially in Canada, being the only team that represents an entire country, like
Mhm.
that's a bond that we don't see in the like of sports. And how is that? Because now you're kind of seeing it. I don't want to say dismantled because anything
Yeah,
Masai Ujiri does is not a dismantling. It's very
yeah,
strategic. But
yeah.
like, how are you feeling about that?
So there's a lot to unpack there. So it took a lot to get over giving DeMar DeRozan up. So
Yep.
that was a very tough trade. But when you can acquire a player of Kawhi Leonard's skill set for that cost, I think it was a very fair deal for both sides. It came with a lot of pain because that team could never get over the LeBron hump. And let's face it, no one in the East could either.
No.
So it wasn't just us. So there is this like narrative, oh, Kawhi came and you guys just won a championship easily. It's like, no, like a lot of stuff had to happen for that run to exist. I think, yeah, it culminated in beating the Warriors, but they were a little bit weaker. I think a lot of the battles came. The Philly series was the actual, yeah,
The
crazy
7
part.
bounces. If we don't,
Yeah,
if it's 6 bounces and it falls off, we're not talking about that.
yeah, and then the next series right after the gentleman sweep of the
Yeah.
Bucks happened, so they took two. It looked very terrible. We came back and swept them. So, in terms of basketball, I'm glad I got to see it. I never thought the Raptors would ever win a championship, and everything broke right. Everything happened. But yeah, that lesson. Unfortunately, Kawhi moved on, which is fine. He never wanted to come to anywhere other than LA, so they sent him physically the furthest away they could just to mess with him,
Right.
which we benefited from. But yeah, having him go home and not having to run it back, that's one of the biggest regrets. Or, I mean, it wasn't up to me, it was up to Kawhi, really. But that was one of the unfortunate things. We didn't get to see it play out.
Yeah.
But he got to go home and he got what he wanted. I can't get mad at that. He was free to do so. And right now it's just a retooling of that. So a lot of the players are now gone and done other things, but they haven't really. No one from that team really moved on and did anything substantial. So it's unfortunate. Like I would have loved for Serge or Mark to see success, and then with Kyle leaving, I think us really appreciating him and kind of seeing how he was treated in Miami was a little disgusting.
Yeah.
And then now Fred's gonna go on and play in Houston for max money, and I can't be mad at him for taking the money. I mean, who wouldn't want
Yep.
not that money? So
No, I think I don't want to call it a divorce, except for maybe in the Kawhi sense, but even then, it was amicable at best. No, and I agree with you. It's just like every time you get a champion, you want to see them do. It's a 2-year process in a sense because you want to see
yeah,
them defend.
yeah,
And that team, especially even the remnants of that team in the bubble, my goodness, like it truly embodies that notion that Rudy Tomjanovich said is like never underestimate the heart of a champion because they kicked, they screamed, they bit, they gnawed, and yeah, they got out. I think and let me know if I'm speaking out of turn if it was in the conference semis or the conference finale, but my goodness, I think it was the Heat. They earned their win because Toronto would not go gently into the night.
it was Boston, I believe, in
Boston.
the
Okay,
bubble.
thank you. Yeah,
We took them to 7, final possession. Yeah, we scraped and clawed, and we never really got to defend because of the world shut down, and it
yeah.
is what it is. I think everyone kind of remembers where they were when the Kobe news happened, and then it kind of spiraling, and then
It was a dark time for basketball
yeah,
fans.
yeah, we thought of things that were more important than sports, and things kind of shut down, and everything got kind of displaced and out of order, and then by the time we got put back in, there's the bubble and the travel and whatever. So I feel we never really got a true chance to repeat, and that's the unfortunate thing. And then the next year, they were displaced nomads. They had to play in
Yeah, the Tampa
Tampa.
Bay Raptors. I
Yeah,
refuse to acknowledge that. Yep.
yeah. So like, I always feel like we never got a real shot to repeat which is unfortunate. But there's gonna be people that say like, "Oh, you guys only won because so and so got hurt and so and so got hurt." But you can say that about any run, right?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this concept of asterisk titles.
Mm-hmm.
Every title required somebody on the other team getting hurt or some sort of bounce that went the way of the eventual victor. So totally get it. And well, thank
Yeah.
you for letting me kind of pick at you about that
No
because
problem. No problem.
let's
So
so
we're
back to
taking
the
the
actual
spur.
basketball. Yeah.
We're taking the spur. So the thing about the Spurs colors and the Calgary Hitmen colors, they're not that much different. There's just an extra element of this like kind of pink glow that they use.
Right.
So it's up to you. Are you thinking in terms of a hat? You want to run a two-tone again? You want to go all black? You want to do a front panel? What are you feeling?
Let's go all black and just kind of see how
Okay.
that goes because I think the hints of pink, when hopefully done strategically, make it be even more vibrant. But
Mm-hmm.
half the journey is trying to figure out what this looks like on the fly. So,
All right. So this spur here, you have an outline, a
mm-hmm.
fill, and a shadow. So those are the three elements you can play with. So if you want to have a lot of pink in it, we can put the pink here. Oops. So we can put the pink here, like in the fill.
Mm-hmm. I
But
actually like that. Like, I
yeah.
think that reminds me a lot of Brett the Hitman Hart and by extension his minor league hockey team, the Calgary Hitmen.
And then we could do like a metallic silver around it and
Yep.
then punch in the black here. I think that's a pretty cool look.
In fact, can we make it that big? Like, though,
No. So it would be like this big.
okay, no, that's perfect.
About three, 2.5, 3 inch. Um, yeah, this reminds me a lot of his jacket. You remember he had like
Yeah,
tassel?
yeah, the tassels on the shoulder.
Yeah,
And the other thing I'm trying to figure out is how can we work those iconic sunglasses? Because I think growing up in India, the number one thing I wanted more than anything ever was just a pair of those wraparound shades.
yeah, the almost pit viper look, right?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So here, so we can do either pink fill,
Mm-hmm.
so it'd look like that,
Okay.
or we could do pink for the silver, and then do the silver fill or black fill, whatever you like.
Could we do the pink fill with the white outline just to see how
Mm-hmm.
that looks?
Yeah. So pink fill, and then white outline,
Yeah.
and then black around it. That looks
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, let's go with that.
That reminds me of the Heart family
Heart
crest.
foundation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'm cool with that.
perfect. If you're cool with that, I'm cool with that.
I have his theme song stuck in my head now.
Yeah, the iconic
Yeah,
guitar twang that begins it. So
yeah.
I know you had mentioned growing up. I think you had said your dad took you to see a couple of the matches. Do you have a
Mhm.
favorite wrestler from that time period that you went with your father?
Yeah. So he took me to go watch wrestling live. He still watches wrestling today. Um, yeah, I remember watching Macho Man versus Jake the Snake at Maple Leaf Gardens. I think back in 1993.
Wow.
I don't remember the winner. I do remember Macho Man kind of cheating and pulling Jake the Snake's pants down a little bit, or vice versa. Whatever happens burned in my my
You
memory.
just saw ass
One
cheeks that
I
day.
just saw, yeah, one of the wrestlers had really white ass cheeks. So whoever won, congratulations. But it was a cage match, Maple Leaf
Oh,
Gardens. Someone can fact check me. I believe it was 93, 92 ish.
okay.
I was like
Fair.
7 or 8. But yeah, it was one of the memories I vividly remember taking the public transit down to Maple Leaf Gardens and watching this cage match. Two grown men trying to kill each other in a cage. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny because it's one of those things that whenever I tell people I'm a wrestling fan, and my wife kind of likes to let people know as well. She goes, "It's the weirdest thing because I can't imagine what that's like in terms of trying to sit down and watch it day after day, year after year." But she goes, "You always find somebody to talk to about wrestling." So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's we're all in this secret club that half the time we're very embarrassed about, and then other half are like, yeah, we like it a lot. You want to talk about it? Let's talk
So
about it.
you still follow it till this day?
Yeah, and it's one of
Okay.
those things that my brother was a big fan of it, and then when he went to Australia for med school, I didn't know what else to talk to him about because he is as introverted as I am extroverted. And it was
Okay.
just one of those things where I was like, I gave up wrestling, I think, once I went to college. But then I was like, you know what? I need to do this just so I have something to talk to him about. And it can be one of those things where it's a jumping off point. So we'll always have wrestling, we'll always have sports. And I kind of got back into it and I got the bug again. So now I'll watch the big pay-per-views, the WWE network when it still existed in the way. And I think one thing, you guys in Canada, you still have the old school version of the network. Enjoy that because right now it's on Peacock, which is a streaming service for us that just has brutalized my boy. I keep thinking of that Godfather scene of what have they done to my boy with Sonny Corleone and the WWF network or the WWE.
Yeah, I watched it really heavily uh with the Monday Night Wars. So
Yeah,
I was more WC I was more team WCW. I liked the
same.
NWO stuff more.
Yeah.
And then when they merged, it kind of got lame
Oh yeah.
again, and then I got back into it again when ECW was
Yep.
kind of popular, and then WWF ended up just buying it and turning all those like legends into like weird characters. Like he made Al Snow do weird stuff. Never really used RVD properly.
Taz, like that's the one I always
Yeah,
go back to. It's just like
Taz,
he was a
Tommy
stone
Dreamer.
cold killer, Tiny Dreamer. Yeah. Can I ask you one thing, Leon?
Mhm,
When you were putting the hat together,
mhm.
what I thought the hat looked really nice when it was just a white colorway all the throughout the body of the hat, like the default. Could you show me that again? And do you think it makes more sense as the black, or keep it as white with that pink and black logo?
Oh, that's your call. I mean, I think if you're doing a Hitman
Hmm.
hook, he didn't
Yeah,
really have a lot of white, so
you're
I'm
right.
thinking it's a lot
Let's
of
do that
purple.
then. No, thank
Yeah,
you for at least
yeah,
humoring me on that front.
no problem, no problem. So the bottom, so
Hmm.
we can either do like a metallic silver, you could do a regular gray, or you could do that pink.
Let's do the pink. I think just
All right,
have
cool.
a little homage as much as we can. How is that, by the way? Like, if we keep the like how you have in the upper left where the bill is white, what do you think of that? Or
For
is it
practical uses, it would be terrible because
okay?
anytime you touch the hat,
It gets
you're
dirty.
you're running a risk of
Okay,
it
fair.
turning turning gray. And anytime it sweats over time, anytime you
Oh, it's
sweat,
yeah,
it
it's
will
gonna
turn
get
yellow.
okay,
Yeah.
fair.
What the heck happened? Oh
Oh,
my
that
god.
looks good.
Yeah. And there you have it. The excellence of execution. Oh, I gotta take this. Hold on. So you can do an NBA logo at the back, or we could do another Spurs word mark.
Are there generic stars that we could put? Like, they don't have to be affiliated or anything like that. Just
Mm, not really. So like with
okay.
licensed stuff,
Hmm.
it would have to. We would be putting it through an additional,
Fair.
more
Okay, in that case,
painful
let's just
layer.
no. Then let's not even think about that. Let's just go ahead and. What are the other Spurs logos? If you don't mind me
Yeah.
showing you those.
So they will be. Where am I working off of? This is the advantage of me having 6 million things open at once.
Yes.
So we could do like this one, which is like a generic word mark.
Okay.
All right. You could do like the Jerry West logo man.
Hmm. Let's do the Jerry West logo, man, and see if we can.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's do that.
They keep talking about wanting to switch this, and I would love them for them to switch the logo to potentially Kobe or Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I always kind of wonder. Is like I I do think it's time for a refresh because we're kind of entering in this new century of basketball. And hell, we've been there already for 23 years. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing I kind of get stuck on is like, what do you want to do? Because for all intensive purposes, Jordan's best logo is the Jumpman, and I don't know if they're going to utilize the Jumpman because that's the iconic image. So it's either got to be LeBron or Kobe or somebody else that we can think of. But even then, like, what do you think would be like that signature Kobe pose? Because the one that always kind of comes to my mind is like that one where he's like punching the air in celebration.
No, I think it would either be him dribbling,
Mm-hmm.
so just his kind of like foes dribbling.
Yeah.
I mean, you could always do the jersey pull,
Yep.
but that's not. I don't know if I would
It
think
doesn't
his
feel.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just him dribbling would be cool. Arm
Perfect.
extended, dribble, almost a carry, but not quite.
No,
End of
it's
the
funny you
game.
mentioned that because I'm almost thinking about it because it's almost the evolutionary chart, right? You always see of like the caveman eventually getting to the upright man. And I
Yeah,
think they could do something similar, whereas to your point, have Kobe emulate a dribble much the way Jerry West is in the logo, but then make it modern, make it a little bit more striking, like have him at a slightly different angle because he's
yeah,
always attacking. Yeah,
yeah. I think that would be it. But I think this hat looks really good.
I'll take it.
All right. So number 2 in the books for Pops.
Pops, pop and pops.
Yeah. And then hat number 3. This
So
one's kind of for you, right?
this one's for me and my wife. We wanted to do a hat for our daughter, and I was kind of struggling in terms of how do I incorporate my wife into it. But then I realized she's a Florida Gator, and I overthought it. So we're going to use the Florida Gator as our base. Our daughter's favorite color is purple. Her favorite word, because she's 22 months, is agua. So maybe try to lean a little bit into that blue and white that's always kind of there with the Gators, and then maybe some sort of homage to the two cats we have. But I think this one will be another simpler one, same way that the previous one was.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to pull the Florida Gators.
Yep, that's for my wife, proud Gator through and through. And yeah, I needed to have her because she did the heavy lifting, so to speak, with regards to actually having the child in her belly for 9 months. And she does a great job being my daughter's number one fan. And I think same way I mentioned that about my mom, it's just like I think my wife is my daughter's number one fan, and selfishly, I'm okay with it because she
There you
deserves
go.
to have that privilege. So yeah, and I love the fact that we're able to kind of get multiple logos here. So thank you for that, Leon.
Oh, no problem. So now I'm getting rid of the whites we don't need
Mm-hmm.
in the logo. Hopefully it's gone.
I think so.
All right. And then which color are we?
Purple
Mm-hmm.
because it's just adorable when she says popo. So we want to get that
Purple.
in there, popo.
Mm-hmm.
And I know blue and white are kind of already there. So I'm trying to think what other colors do we put in there because the Florida Gators have a deceptively large color wheel. Like you'd mentioned, the blue and the orange. They've got green and white.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Maybe as a tie into my mom's hat because we added a little bit of gold, maybe a little purple and gold in tiny, minute details. But let's go see what we can work with.
All right. I like it. So I'm pulling some purples. You want to stick with some of the greens and blues? Or
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's see what we can do with that.
okay, because there's these which are more close to like the turquoise.
And Leon, is there a way to make the
Oh
image
yeah,
of the screen bigger? Yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
I'm
Thank you.
torturing you with the
No,
microscope.
no, you're torturing me by making me look at me, and it's with
Yeah.
this. Yeah, you're good.
All right, so we're just gonna fast forward this part real quick. Right here, we're just picking colors and threads to use within his hat. Make sure you guys are liking the video, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of it. Where do you want to start coloring now?
Hmm.
So
So,
one way. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say you had talked to me about 3 different types of hat, and I think for the previous 2 hats we've gone a different way. Is there a third type of hat that, in
Yeah,
terms of the structure or the color blocking?
yeah. So it would be like a front panel hat. So you would pick two colors to go to the front that
Okay,
are the same, and then another color that goes like here, basically.
let's do that.
So it kind of look like that.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. And then the gator itself, how are we coloring it?
Hmm. You know what? This is going to be very inside baseball, but can we make the teeth yellow? Because she's struggling with her brushing right now. And I want this
All
as a
right.
constant reminder that if you don't brush your teeth,
Let's do it.
yeah.
I mean, it could be people could think if it's like a gold grill,
Yeah.
which is
You know
very
what?
Florida.
Very Florida. Shout outs to the Miami region as well. Yeah, we're all about inclusivity with this hat. So
Okay.
that's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yep.
And then the side patch, this UF right here.
Hmm.
So we would pick up color for the orange and the blue to be subbed out. So
Okay. So let's do this. I'm trying to think what colors. What's a color wheel combo that we haven't used yet in the hat?
we'll pull it up for you.
And I was gonna say I don't think we've used a lightish blue on any of the hats this time around. So maybe we get that light blue. So something that color of water, because that's the other thing about Florida. You're kind of
Hmm.
surrounded by the water.
Yeah, so we can do like this blue yellow or blue orange.
Let's do the blue orange because I think that's also kind of in line with the
Hmm.
logo's traditional scheme, but then there's enough of a versatility there that it feels unique.
Yeah, so we
Maybe
pretty much just leave it in this color basically.
or maybe flip the colors if we want to feel truly like we've done something.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that. Let's try that.
Because she's turned our world upside down. So that's my
There you
cheesy
go.
dad joke. There you
There
go.
you go. And then for under,
Mm-hmm.
because
Should we
your
go?
colors are so crazy here, I would pick
Yeah.
like a muted color, like a gray usually.
Okay, let's do that. And let me know, Leon, if you think that side patch is too jarring.
Mm,
Be honest with me. I can take it.
no, I don't think it's. It doesn't really look like it matches. To be
No, it
honest.
doesn't. Yeah. So, like, I think you were mentioning earlier, right, when we were looking at gold and copper for the outline of the crocodile in the state, it blended too much. I think that blue is too similar to that purple. So, what color would you put instead of that?
All right, quick little speed up here. We did a quick little change on the side patch. We took it from the blue and the orange. We felt it blended in too much, and we changed it to pink and red.
Even still a little jarring, but you know what? That's like a little kid's drawing. Sometimes you just kind of got to grin and bear it and be like, you know what? This is going to go up on my fridge. I don't, color schemes be damned.
And there you go. It's kind of like the Durhambachers. You can't make fun of the Durhambachers.
Yeah, not at all. And hey, to tie it back together, we got a little bit of pink, just like her grandfather's hat, and a little bit of red, like the Chiefs hat of her grandma. So I like the thematic conclusion of this all.
There you go. All right.
And the
So
gray looks good. Perfect.
there you go. Hat number
Perfect.
3.
Hat number 3. Thank you so much, Leon.
No problem. So before we go and sign off, where can people find your work? So where can they? You have any?
Yeah, here's the shameless plug portion of this
You gotta
podcast,
do it.
as they always kind of have to happen. You can find me on Twitter at Rohizi for however long Twitter continues to be alive. I'm trying to get on all the other new
You gotta
socials,
get on
but you can
Threads.
Threads. I'm on Threads with my same Instagram handle, which is RohitM13, as you'll see on the Chiron on this episode if you choose to view it. You can listen to me on the Sneaker History podcast and the Exhaust Notes podcast. You can find those on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. And more importantly, you can find me on this, Leon in the Lab. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of the playground, man. This is fun. And for any other creators that are lucky enough to get selected to do this, do it. Get creative. It really makes you think in a good way. And I thank you again for Leon being the great Willy Wonka to my Charlie Bucket and all of this.
My pleasure. Hopefully we'll get something in production very soon, and then you'll have something to kind of take home. And I love the family aspect. Like you could have selfishly came on and only made stuff for yourself, and you didn't do that. So I applaud you for that. It was a pleasure having you. Hopefully, people take the time to learn a little bit more about you. So that would be the goal. Hopefully, we spread the gospel for F1 enthusiasts and sneaker enthusiasts alike. But yeah,
We need you back, Leon, because you said you haven't watched in 30 years. We need you back. That's why I
yeah.
did this selfishly.
Well,
It's like we got to bring Leon back. So.
Isn't Schumacher's kid in F1?
He was, and now
Okay.
he's a reserve driver for, I believe, Mercedes. But it's also one of those things that if you become a new fan or you are a new fan, like the kind of sad story of like the legends of this, because you have Senna who, if you as a listener have 90 minutes and you want to kind of see what the hype about Formula One is about, if nothing else, watch the Senna documentary because it's such a brilliant piece of work that stands alone. You may not even be a car person. Like I'm not a traditional car person, but I love that documentary. And then Michael Schumacher, that with what kind of befell him and the fact that his son is still doing it is nice to see. And I really hope that that family gets that moment to see Schumacher Jr. win a race. And maybe that's a 1 in a million shot, but we can always hope.
Yeah, I was on the other team. So I'm Canadian, so I was always cheering for Jacques Villeneuve. And he's a second generation guy himself.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
With Gilles was his father. I think he passed away driving, which happens. I mean, it's part of the job description. But yeah, I got to get back into it. I tried to make it through episode 1 of the Netflix series, and I got distracted and never put it on again. But everyone raves about that show, so I got to get back into it. But yeah, until next time, we out.
Thank you, guys.
And there you have it. Episode 7 is in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. It was a really fun experience. Rohit was a really talkative guy, so the time kind of flew by, and there wasn't much dead time. So yeah, it was a really cool episode for me to do. The hats came out pretty good. A lot of them had really specific colors and really specific ties to the story and how it represents the family members. I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna translate into like the finished product. There might have to be some creative changes to some of them, but yeah, I can't wait to get those hats into production and available to you guys really soon. But yeah, make sure you guys are following Rohit and his different podcasts. So he does the Sneaker History podcast and he does Exhaust Notes for the F1 racing. But yeah, like make sure you guys are dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Again, shout out to the sponsor of this episode, Pro Image Sports Colorado. And yeah, hope to see you guys next week. But until next time, I'm out. Peace. Oh,